Welcome into Juck on Bucks. Appreciate you so much for joining me. A huge Saturday night for the Ohio State Buckeyes as they take on the mighty UCLA Bruins and beat them 48-10. But we've already done our show discussing that game. Today, we discuss another boom. Now, we also did one of these yesterday as Eli Johnson committed a 6'3", 200-pound safety, top 100 kid in the class of 27. This one, however, class of 2026 in a position of need that we've been wondering this entire cycle, who is going to fill this spot? Feels like it's been forever. We've had very public, high-profile misses, and it's caused a lot of consternation from guys like Luke Wafel out of New Jersey, Carter Meadows out of Virginia, Landon Barnes and KJ Ford out of Duncanville, Texas, on down the list. Miss after miss after miss in what ended up being very high-profile, high-dollar kind of bidding war type of deals. And now the Buckeyes end up getting their guy, and their guy to pair with Khary Wilder is Dre Quinn. Dre Quinn was committed to Clemson, decommitted from Clemson on May 30th. And ever since that decommitment, everybody assumed it was going to be Texas. Texas was the runner-up in his original recruitment. He really liked Texas, but he kind of wanted to open it up and maybe see some other places that he really wasn't involved with in the first go-around. Thought that he maybe rushed his decision to Clemson. So in the end there, it was Tennessee, it was Texas, it was Ohio State. And he comes up to Ohio State for a visit a couple weeks ago for a game and then back up for the UCLA game for an official visit. And I think that Ohio State does just a sensational job on official visits, and it really resonates if you are the type of person and the type of family they're looking for. They make it, it's not going to be some big financial, we're going to roll out the red carpet, but it's not going to be about what we can give you. There's very much it's a two-way street. If you want to come here and earn it, if you want to come here and get what that guy has and what that guy has and what that guy has, pointing of course at first rounders everywhere. This is how we do that here. And, we love you and we take care of you and you're one of us. And that appeals to the type of person that they want it to appeal to and the type of family that they want it to appeal to. That's not everybody. And sometimes that cuts the list down. But the result is you get the people that you want and the people that want you. And everything I've heard about Dre Quinn, though I've not had a chance to talk to him personally, is this is absolutely an Ohio State kind of guy. Everything about him and his family fits. What they're looking for is perfect for what Ohio State can provide them. And this one, we talk about rankings, we talk about things of this nature all the time, and this is a top 100 kid, et cetera. When we talk about Dre Quinn, who is ranked roughly, he's a 4-star, right? He's a blue chipper, but borderline. We're talking a guy who is, just on the cusp of a high-rated 3-star, 4-star. Top number 40th defensive and 40th edge in the country. And the truth is, when you look at the top 100 guys, that's one thing. After that top 100, from about 100 to 400, a lot of times when we talk about those guys, it's not about talent, but it's about what you're looking for your goals, for your defense, because you can kind of shuffle those guys in a whole lot of ways if you want to. And honestly, I just went down all the edges. And after the top 10, who I think, okay, this guy's a little bit different. This guy's a little bit different. There's a lot of guys in there that are just all right, this guy's not better than Dre Quinn. That guy's not better than Dre Quinn. And I think that what the Buckeyes got here, some real value in a kid who's absolutely got the potential to be a high-level Ohio State starter coming out of Buford in Georgia, 6'4", 225. So keep that in mind when you're watching this film, that this is not a very heavy kid, and we've been used to watching 270-pound defensive ends, so he's naturally going to be a little bit quicker. But the length, the change of direction, the aggression, it's all there. And coming out of high-level Georgia football, these guys generally come in pretty advanced, pretty ready to go. Edric Houston out of Buford. Quinn, not just an edge, athletic enough to be a tight end. And when you watch him as a tight end, he could certainly have gone to a lot of schools if he wanted to play tight end and probably made it work there. takes snaps inside, outside, and looks good doing it both ways. Pretty good production. He's in game number 11 of the season here, and they've got the playoffs. They're still rolling. But this season so far, over 50 tackles, 10 TFLs, a couple forced fumbles, a couple of sacks in the regular season. Absolutely a blue chipper. Rivals internal ranking, 35th to 40th defensive end. And to me, a nonsense ranking. So I'm pretty thrilled about this kid. I'm pretty thrilled about, when we look at some of the other guys that Ohio State could have potentially had in this class, like Kevin Ford, for instance, out of Duncanville, a kid who was about 6'1.5" and that was he was listed at 6'3", but there was a picture of him next to Jeremiah from his visit. Definitely not a 6'1", barely 6'1", and that's just by the way, ranked much higher than Dre Quinn, which he's not even a better football player, and smaller. Definitely happy about Dre Quinn. When we look at Jackson Ford, who's another guy that the Buckeyes almost got, but weren't really pursuing super hard, and he ends up going to Penn State, and then James Franklin gets fired. They don't go after him. He's the 18th rated edge. Dre Quinn, I think, is a better prospect than him as well. Parker Krim, an Ohio kid out of Elida, Ohio, committed to Illinois, and Ohio State wasn't interested. You had offers from like Illinois, Iowa, Boston College, a good prospect. He's the 36th edge in the country, higher than Dre Quinn in some of these rankings. Even a kid like Landon Barnes, who I really liked, he is now a number 10 edge in the country. And to me, this is almost an identical prospect between Landon and Dre. But Dre has what you're looking for as far as, the personality fit, the family fit. Outside of guys like Carter Meadows in this class, Zion Ellie, Rodney Dunham, Richie Wesley, Damian Geitlin, who reclassified, Jamari Carlton, outside of about 10 of those dudes that really stand out as maybe a different level of athlete and size, you got a whole lot of what is your preference? And the Buckeyes, they chose Dre. I'm happy about it, and I love it. Now, when we look at Dre joining Khary Wilder in this class, Khary, the number 1 defensive lineman in the country who can play inside or outside, I am so stoked about this pair of guys here. Khary, a guy who was, top 250 type of kid until he burst onto the scene at the rivals camp and absolutely dominated every 5-star tackle in there. And everybody realized, oh, we got one, which is what I told you when the Buckeyes offered him. He is an absolute dude. And when we look at this edge class here with Khary, who you can count in there, but Khary, again, will play all over the defensive line, and Dre Quinn, to me, it's more than that. We look at 2025 with them. And now we look at this group of 4 guys with Zion Grady, Epi Satanile, Khary Wilder, and Dre Quinn. And when we look at that 4 right there, and the reason I choose to look at it like that is because the previous class was Dominic Kirks and Edric Houston, and Edric has since moved inside. Dominic Kirks obviously still has a future. He can potentially pop off, but there's also the chance that he gets passed up. But I think with Zion Grady, who's already showing he's going to be a future stud at Ohio State, Epi, who's not shown it yet, but I totally believe he's going to be, and I think that they may have something cooking up for him. I talked to Crew Jones the other day. Crew, one of the top edges in the class of 2027 out of Utah, who really, really likes Ohio State. He told me he was really excited for what they have in store for Epi. Said that specifically, which means in his conversations, they're, potentially saying, okay, we're going to use Epi like this, and we see you in this role. So that's exciting stuff there, but excited for Epi, excited for Zion. He is absolutely already showing that he can play and be a dude. And then when you add in Khary Wilder and Dre, who's got a little bit of weight to gain, more than the others, coming in at about 225, 230, this 4-pack of guys here, without a doubt, 2 of them are going to pop and be high-level total NFL studs, if not more. So I think this is now an area that everybody was really concerned about that has turned into, this is a fantastic job, and these are some very, very high-level players. On the inside of the defensive line, it doesn't feel as fantastic, but you took more shots. Damari Simeon, to me, can't miss dude. Love everything about his game. I think he's going to be a total impact 3 tech. Then you got Emmanuel Ruffin recently, who is a big guy with some quicks and a lot of potential. He's going to be a 1 tech, but I wouldn't put him in the category of Damari. You got your massive 1 tech in Jameer Perez, who is a guy you absolutely had to have because you don't have guys like this on the roster. He gives you versatility to do something different, and that's always of a lot of value. Even if he's a 3-star athlete in a 5-star body, you want that body type. So that's great. Then you've got Cam Brickle in this class as well. And Cam Brickle is, who knows what you get out of Cam Brickle. I think he's a 6'2" kid, 305 pounds, hasn't put up a ton of production, not starting at IMG on his 4th high school, but he's got some twitch, some raw ability. What does he end up being? Does he filter himself out of the program? Does he turn into a starter? Don't know. But the point is, you took more shots, so you have the ability to give somebody a chance that you might otherwise not. Then when we look at the class of 2025, grouping those interior guys in with the class of 2026, you got what I consider to be a perfect comp to Ty Hamilton, and that's Max Roy. Max Roy out of St. Joe's Prep, Isaiah West's best friend, really reminds you of a guy who could be exactly like Ty Hamilton with the extreme power and strength, not super twitchy, but kind of a madman with a motor. Max Roy, also a state champion wrestler with thighs on him that are just like, this kid's a leverage monster and a little bit shorter, but just the strength and the understanding of leverage from being a wrestling champion. He's going to be a player at some point. I think he's going to be a starter at some point at 1 tech, unless somebody really pops and blows him out of the water. But then you've got Trajan Odom, who feels to me and always has like a several-year project. So adding this defensive class this defensive tackle class that's very large in with the 2026 or 25ers was a really good idea. And I'm really happy that the Buckeyes chose to go this route because you can go higher on your numbers now. The money does come off the salary cap, so it's less money you can work with because the scholarship money goes towards that. And of course, you got to pay them too, so that goes towards that as well. But you're going to take a couple extra shots. Make sure you take them on the offensive and defensive line because that is the most vitally important to not be stuck after a transfer portal with, fewer bodies than you needed on the offensive and defensive line. You can fudge some things around to make up for it elsewhere. You can't do that with the linemen. You need the big bodies. Now, I was running some numbers, and this is amazing. In 2024 and in 2025, after the month of September, Ohio State's class each year added a total of 3 commitments after the month of September. In 2024, they added Gabe Van Sickle, who they flipped from Northwestern, safety Leroy Roker, and defensive end Dominic Kirks, a Painesville kid who was committed to Washington. In 2025, last year, late additions of Turbo Rogers, Epi Satanile, and Jordan Woods. Turbo was committed to Bama, and he decommitted and then committed to Ohio State. Epi, a UCLA commit, Jordan Woods, Cincinnati. And in 2026, this class of 2026, since the end of October, mid-October through November, has now secured 7 commitments. 7. Totally flipping the entire strategy here on its head as they've added safety Kamari Bing, offensive lineman Landry Breed, Mason Wilhelm, cornerback Jay Timmons, athlete Legend Bay, defensive tackle Emmanuel Ruffin, and now Dre Quinn, with more to come. I hope CJ Brono joins this class, and boy, if he does, even bigger news. But more than 3 times the amount of guys late in the class. And as we discussed, a lot of this has to do with the transfer portal now. Just one transfer portal window. So if you got a guy who tells you he's not going to leave, and then he ends up getting a crazy offer in the transfer portal, and he goes, there is no recourse. You cannot replace him in the spring portal. You're cooked. So to the extra numbers, you got to have a couple extra bodies. And Ryan Day is one of them to add an extra body pretty much everywhere. Whereas you were thinking of taking a third linebacker, go take a third linebacker. You were thinking of taking a third corner, go get a third corner. And it's a great strategy. It's planning ahead. It's being flush with guys, as he says. And I think that it's fantastic. So I'm very happy about that. As a guy who loves recruiting and loves breaking down the guys, it's just more guys I get to break down and enjoy, and look forward to their future as they move forward. So it makes me happy and excited. But it also gives you another bite at the apple, another swing at each position to hit a home run, that potentially you found a diamond in the rough, like a Braxton Rembert, who was up for his official. Another kid out of Georgia, Hoshton, Georgia, Caleb Downs High School, 6'5", 200 pounds, a middle of the road 3-star ranked kid, committed to Wake Forest. Wake Forest, his only Power 4 offer, and James Laurinaitis after the kid. So James sees something in him, sees some potential, which, that's exciting. I like it when you see a guy who is someone you respect. Nobody else sees it. He sees it, and that's exciting. What if it pays off? Wouldn't that be an awesome story? Like, that kind of stuff excites me. One of the reasons I love recruiting. So that is the situation right now as we talk about the class of 2026 for the Buckeyes. How does it look nationally? Well, we've seen it go from 9th to 8th to 7th, and now it is exactly tied in the 6th position. I mean, down to the number, it is tied at 6th with Texas A&M. What could potentially move the needle? Well, cornerback CJ Bronaugh from Windermere, Florida, at 6'2", a tremendous athlete, verified track speed, faster than Jay Timmons, longer than Jay Timmons, not quite as polished or experienced as Jay Timmons, hasn't played against as high-level football. But if CJ Bronaugh ends up in this class, the Buckeyes immediately move into the 5th ranked class in the country. And after all this consternation, they would actually get in the 5th ranked spot. Now, they'd have to hold on to that spot still. But just to go from 9th to 5th this late in the class would be amazing. And this has been such a fun period of time. I almost wish that it wasn't happening in the middle of football. But thankfully, it's happening in the middle of the Buckeyes playing a pretty drab a bunch of teams that have kind of like, all right, we're giving up on the season and we suck and et cetera, because not always the most exciting during these weeks. Anyway, that is our spiel. The Buckeyes grab the 26th commit in the class of 2026. And I think that we'll probably end up with 28 or 29. So let's see how we go. Anyway, appreciate you guys. Great news. Talk to you soon. Chuck and Bucks out.